Well, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor. And today we're going to do a quick little video about a great big book. This is Steven Erikson's Deadhouse Gates. This is the second book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And I will tell you right off, this book is fantastic. I love this book. So I did a video about the first book, which was Gardens of the Moon. I will link that down below because I don't want you to miss any of my fantastic videos. So check the description box for my Gardens of the Moon review. And if you remember from my Gardens of the Moon review, if you saw it, when I first read Gardens of the Moon, I was a little lost. It felt a little bit like I had started the second book in the series without reading the first book. That's how it started when I first read Gardens of the Moon, or when I first started the book anyway. This book, you don't have that problem. You're pretty right there, right from the start. You don't have that kind of feeling of displacement which you can get in Gardens of the Moon, the first book of the series. Now this book does take place in an entirely different area. It takes place in the Seven Cities area. Right here, Seven Cities. And so an entirely different continent, I believe. And so it doesn't have many characters that show up that were in Gardens of the Moon. This is mostly new characters in this book. And for the most part, they're great characters. Two of my favorites are Mappo and Icarium. They're great characters and they've got a really interesting story. But the background of the whole thing is basically in the Seven Cities area, all the peoples of this area are rebelling against the Malazan Empire. And after all, you can't really blame them for that. So they're rebelling, and the military, the Malazan military, has to survive this tremendous rebellion, and boy, do they have a hard time of it. I'm telling you. Throughout the novel, we're following different groups. We have a few characters that are left over that have showed up from Gardens of the Moon. They traveled from one place to the other. So we've got Fiddler and a few other characters. And we follow them, and we follow another group, and there's another group that we're following. Eventually, a lot of the groups, you know, we kind of see how they interconnect. But it takes a while. There's a lot of traveling in this book, and it has that kind of classic questy feeling going on for a fantasy novel. But there's a difference. Deadhouse Gates. Now with Malazan, in the first book, I think in Gardens of the Moon, I might have mentioned in the review that it took everything about fantasy and leveled it up. It took everything to the next level. Deadhouse Gates does the same, but it's a little different, this one. This one I feel like is a lot darker. The first one had its dark moments, that's for sure. It had some seriously uncompromising dark moments. This one is a lot darker, though. I mean, some of the stuff in this book, I mean, it's like horror novel kind of stuff in here. So really, really dark. I could see Joe Abercrombie reading this and being like, "Oh man, that's too much," you know. Because, and unlike Joe Abercrombie in his first Law series, there's not a lot of humor in here. In fact, there's not much humor in here at all. It's really serious business in this book. And so yeah, the violence in here is pretty awful. I mean, it's pretty director's cut stuff, the violence in this book. It's not completely unrelenting, but there's a lot of it. And there's a lot of other kind of heavy stuff in here. There's abuse, there's suffering everywhere in this world. And I mean, I know Stephen Erikson has said, I think he's gone on record as saying that he doesn't consider his work to be grimdark. I think in this case, the only way you can really say that is because maybe grimdark isn't grim or dark enough to measure up to this book, because this is one of the darkest and grimmest fantasy novels I've ever read, or just novels in general that I've ever read. There's some grim and dark stuff in here, so be prepared for that. But don't be dissuaded by that, because this book is, like I said, it's fantastic. It's really, really well written. I think that the writing is better in this one than it was in Gardens of the Moon, and that was a really well written book. But I think this one could be better. There's a couple melodramatic moments in here. I guess you can't really escape that in epic fantasy. But yeah, there's a little bit of that. But this one, much like the last one, just the level of imagination is just great. It's a great read. It's a huge book. It actually took me a long time to read this book, you know, because I happened to be busier last month than I usually am, which is a shame, because every day I was just like, all I wanted to do was read this book. You know, I just wanted to keep reading this book, but now I had to like work and things like that. But this book is great, and even though it's like 830 pages, it doesn't drag at all. You go right through it. Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend Stephen Erikson's Deadhouse Gates. I look forward to reading more Malazan books. Because I've got so much else that I want to read, I don't know how much of it I'll be able to get to. I'm thinking I'll definitely get to the next couple books in the series this year. And next year I will read whatever I can. But even the next two books, that's like, what, a couple thousand pages or something? It's a lot. I don't know why. Epic fantasy, man. Every book's just got to be even bigger and chunkier than the last one. But this is well worth it. Yeah, so just as I recommended Gardens of the Moon, even more so do I recommend the second book of the series. Thank you for stopping by for this quick little book review. I will be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow, I go back to the vault of ancient science fiction, and I will bring up more treasures for you. And after that, I'll be doing my 20 favorite books. I did my 20 greatest novels, but this time I'm going to be doing my 20 favorite books, because favorite and best, they're two different things. So yeah, I hope to see you again here soon at stately Vaughn Manor. Thanks, guys.